exciting. Oh my goodness. So glad to see all of you in one room. And I'm just thrilled to welcome you back to Ottawa and to have a conversation over the next number of days about our foreign policy and your role on the front lines implementing that foreign policy. I want to take a moment and recognize my parliamentary secretaries, Rob Oliphant, Mona Fortier. Bienvenue et merci pour votre travail acharné, toujours, chaque jour, dans la période de questions et d'autres choses, plusieurs enjeux. Merci beaucoup pour votre travail acharné. So thank you so much for the work that you do. A lot of what we're going to talk about during the next few days is the implementation of our new foreign policy under a new Prime Minister and a new government. And so I really wanted to gather everybody around the table so we could have a collective conversation. Because when I see you in your missions, we're so focused about the meeting that is coming up. And I know many of you will have heard me say, please give me some words of opening in the language that my counterpart speaks. And we talk and we delve deeply into the issues of the day in that jurisdiction. But this is a step back. It's a moment for us to examine the new foreign policy approach and the work that we all are going to be doing on behalf of this incredible country over the next years. So you know that your work is crucial, and I want to, again, thank you for your work and everything you do every single day. It's hard on your families, I know, but it is such important work and so valuable at this moment in time. Donc, peut-être je pourrais prendre une petite pause et vous remercier. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Now, as diplomats, we all have moments that typify what it means to be Canadian and what it means to undertake the work that we do every single day. And I thought I would share two of those moments with you before delving into specific aspects of our foreign policy. The first moment I'll share with you is the opening of our consulate formally in Nuuk, Greenland at the beginning of February. As I was raising the Canadian flag, the crowd that had assembled there, and many of them were Inuit who had come to support Governor General Mary Simon, had come to support their Inuit brothers and sisters, had come to support the rules-based international order and the principle of territorial integrity, broke into singing our national anthem. Not prompted, not because it was on the program for the event, but because the moment called for the singing of our national anthem. And so as I was raising the flag, I felt in that moment that our work is much more than any one of us. Our work is very much about what Canada needs now and how we are going to work together collectively as a team to ensure that we're implementing the values on which our foreign policy is based and the pragmatic instances, the pragmatic approach that we need now. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Le deuxième exemple pour moi est quand j'étais récemment en Estonie lors de l'inauguration de notre ambassade à Tallinn. Une chorale d'enfants chantait. Encore une fois, j'ai ressenti l'importance d'être aligné avec des pays qui partagent nos objectifs. Aucun de ces moments n'arrive par hasard. Il arrive grâce à votre travail constant sur le terrain, jour après jour, pour permettre au Canada d'agir avec intention et leadership. Donc, encore une fois, merci. Et si ces moments sont importants, c'est parce qu'ils ont un impact concret pour les Canadiens ici au pays. And everyone in this room understands that in Canada now, like most countries, we are facing major challenges in an evolving geopolitical landscape. This isn't just turbulence, it's transformation. And as Margaret Atwood reminds us, when nothing is sure, everything is possible. This is the moment that we are in. This is the moment of transformation. This is the moment where clarity matters. Middle powers like Canada will remain secure and prosperous only by building our own capabilities at home and combining our strengths with trusted partners abroad. Le monde change rapidement. Les rivalités économiques augmentent. Les chaînes d'approvisionnement sont plus fragiles et les Canadiens ressentent les effets. La bonne nouvelle, mes amis, c'est que nous pouvons façonner notre propre avenir si nous choisissons d'agir avec détermination. Et comme j'ai dit, c'est une matière de s'assurer que nous pouvons être ensemble sur l'étage mondial. Collectively, Canada and our like-minded friends in Europe, in Australia, in Japan, and Korea, for an example, represent a larger GDP than the United States, triple China's trade flows, and represent the largest R&D spend in the world. Purpose-built coalitions can make a difference so that we, as middle powers, can drive prosperity together. And we do that not simply by relying on hegemons, not by doing it alone, but by combining our strengths with partners who share our purpose. And just as your posting letters from the Deputy Minister mentioned in the fall, each one of you has a part to play. You are excellent at what you do, and we need this excellence more than ever. It was an understanding of this moment that convinced me to stay in politics, in fact. Last year, I spoke with Mark Carney before he was the Prime Minister, before deciding to run again. And we were and are like-minded in acknowledging that we were entering a period of significant global and economic uncertainty. And I chose to stay because this national moment is too important to ignore, and perhaps you feel that too on the ground. And I hope that over the next few days, I can hear your stories, and we can learn from each other. Now, I'd like to break the remainder of my remarks into three main parts. First, let's talk about the economy. Second, we'll talk about security and defense. And finally, humanitarian assistance and international development. So the focus, in large measure, is on economic security and trade diversification. Ça, ce n'est pas la bonne nouvelle pour quelqu'un, d'autres peut-être, mais pour nous, c'est important de se souvenir que c'est très important de diversifier nos chaînes d'approvisionnement, nos partenaires économiques partout dans le monde. And our goal is to double non-U.S. trade over the next 10 years. This would represent a $300 billion increase in annual overseas exports. We're seeing early results. There is more work to do, but let me recap some of those early results. Last year, Canadian exports to non-U.S. markets grew by over 17%. Canada is expected to have the second fastest growing economy in the G7 this year and next. And in the first 4 months of this year alone, we landed over $10 billion in commercial deals for Canadian businesses. Over the past year, Canada has secured more than 20 agreements in the form of new economic and security partnerships across 5 continents. In short, countries are choosing Canada. In fact, Canada was ranked the world's most attractive market for infrastructure investment. And I know from my conversations with many of you that you are hearing similar things on the ground as well. And what we will do over the next few days is to continue to craft that foreign policy approach, what it looks like on the ground, meeting with businesses, meeting with investors, ensuring that we are maximizing the economic benefits for the domestic economy. Mais nous sommes ici, pas seulement par un seul pays, mais aussi avec d'autres pays aussi. We know that no country can build resilient supply chains alone. And every country I speak with, and I'm sure you hear it on the ground too, mentions Canada's energy, natural resources, and critical minerals. And I want to spend a moment here to emphasize that in the past year, Canada has signed 56 agreements on critical minerals with more than 10 countries, unlocking over $18 billion in projects, creating jobs for Canadian workers. Mais nous savons que nous devons travailler avec d'autres partenariats, d'autres puissances moyennes pour développer des capacités souveraines, y compris en intelligence artificielle. Et c'est pourquoi nous collaborons avec l'Europe et pourquoi nous avons lancé une initiative trilatérale sur l'IA avec l'Australie et l'Inde. We're also exploring ways to create a bridge between the TPP and the EU, a unique diplomatic opportunity for Canada as both an Atlantic and a Pacific nation. How many of you would be involved in a transatlantic partnership between the EU and the TPP? Just as a matter of show of hands, let me see, right? So our diplomatic missions around the world are being engaged with this new foreign policy, not just on that one example, but in terms of ensuring that our economy sees domestic benefits from the work we are doing abroad. Now let me move to defense and security. So it is no secret that we are building, rearming, reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces. In this era of great power competition, Canada needs a credible armed forces. Canada needs to ensure that we have the military capabilities that not only ensure the defense and protection of our country, but also contributes to our multilateral alliances. So we met 2% of GDP this year. We are on track to meet 5% of GDP by 2035. And as the last federal budget indicated, we are investing $82 billion into the Canadian Armed Forces, into defense procurements, and into ensuring that the Arctic has the security and protection it needs, and we will do this in conjunction with the Indigenous peoples of this great country. I will say one thing, and I've learned this after having been the Minister of National Defense. In all of this, and especially as we launch a defense industrial strategy, we have to remember that there is no siloed approach any longer in government business. Defense policy is economic policy, is foreign policy. And so whereas historically you might have had less interaction across portfolios, in this moment, our approach internally is integrated, and that reflects in the broader policy that we are implementing. And there's a great example of this, the DSRB. The Defense Security and Resilience Bank, as many of you know, is a pooling mechanism. It's a pooling mechanism for capital, for particularly small and medium-sized enterprises that need to scale up, especially in an era where demand is outstripping supply. And so the DSRB, which Canada is leading and will host, is an excellent example of multilateral coordination, cooperation internationally, and it will ensure that we are working with like-minded countries in allowing small and medium-sized enterprise to build up their capacity and to contribute to the global effort in terms of military procurements. Another example, of course, is the Security Action for Europe initiative. We're the only non-European country to join the SAFE, of course, giving us access to 150 billion euros in lending and borrowing from EU states. On the security and defense front, there is so much more that we can talk about, and hopefully we will in questions. I will mention, however, our work on NATO's eastern flank, our work for the long-term and the short-term support for Ukraine. On the eastern flank front, we've recommitted to Operation Reassurance to 2029. I was recently in Latvia. C'était incroyable de parler avec nos forces armées canadiennes, toujours. But the commitment, especially as we are seeing Russian misinformation and disinformation really impact everyday life in those countries, is absolutely an indication that we need to continue the work that we are doing. And on Ukraine proper, 47,000 Ukrainian Armed Forces members have been trained by the CAF. We've put forward $25.5 billion in multiple forms of aid. As many of you know, we have an initiative to support the return of Ukrainian children. And everywhere I go, whether it's in Kyiv or in Canada, Canadians and Ukrainians alike are thanking me for the work that the Government of Canada is doing. And in fact, just yesterday when I was on Lake Ontario at a local event in my riding, Ukrainians came up to me and said, "Thank you for the work you're doing, Slava Ukraini." Now I will move to the final section, which is on international assistance and humanitarian aid. And over the course of the past year, of course, we've seen, I couched it in the global landscape is rapidly evolving. What that involves in large mention is graver and graver humanitarian crisis. And as a result, what we need to do as a country that has consistently stood for development assistance, humanitarian aid, and the rights, the human rights of civilian populations around the world, has meant that our humanitarian aid is more important than ever. So from Cuba to Haiti to Sudan to Gaza to Lebanon, those are 5 examples just in the past year alone where Canada has stepped up with additional humanitarian aid. And yes, there's always more to do. We will continue to work with international organizations. We will make sure that the Canadian flag is represented on the international stage in this form. In fact, just recently, my counterpart from Jordan called me and said, "We're doing an international bridge for aid to Lebanon. We'd like Canada to join, and we're going to have trucks carrying this aid through Syria into Lebanon." And I said, "Well, I don't think we can get trucks over there, but we will work with you and we will make sure that Canada is participating in this bridge." Another point on international assistance is the idea that Canadian interests are a guide. And this is a set of new guidance that you're going to hear more about over the next few days. We're going to be utilizing our Africa strategy and beyond We're going to be focusing on productive sectors, workforce development, mobilizing private capital alongside development finance. Et cela signifie aussi travailler plus étroitement au-delà des frontières institutionnelles traditionnelles, le commerce, l'économie politique, les finances et les missions à l'étranger. We're going to make sure that our work abroad is also integrated into the broader foreign policy that I've been laying out today. And of course, at the heart of GAC's mandate to help Canadians, both at home and abroad, is our consular team. Can I just get a round of applause for the consular folks? I mean, oh my goodness. We all are taxed and working hard when there are consular crises, but the consular team is an incredible force in this government. When there are crises, Canadians need to come home. When we need to figure out how we are going to help stranded Canadians who have no options or appear to have no options, we all get into our respective situation rooms. We all get out maps, I am sure, here at HQ, but around the world. And I've been trying on my travels to thank consular teams individually, and I wanted to make sure that they are thanked here today. And many of you are on those teams helping to ensure Canadians are traveling by chartered bus, chartered flights, blocked bookings on commercial flights, and the list goes on. But that work is fundamentally important to what we do, and I never forget it, and I'm sure you live it every day when we are confronting a crisis, as we have been over the past year since I've been in office. So thank you so much for your work. So now let me conclude. Ensemble, notre politique étrangère et notre résilience économique chez nous créent les conditions qui rendent la prospérité possible au pays. Our work abroad must deliver results for Canadians here at home, making sure that it creates growth, security, and resilience for Canadians. So my ask of you today is simple. Bring this middle power strategy to life. Spot the opportunities, build the coalitions, move with speed. C'est exactement ce que nous faisons avec la francophonie. Par exemple, nos efforts pour devenir hôte de ce sommet en 2028, ici à Ottawa, Gatineau. Merci, Mona, pour votre travail acharné là-dessus. On va continuer de travailler sur les coalitions multilatérales. And I'll return as well to the moments that I mentioned at the beginning in Nuuk, in Tallinn. Those moments were reminders of what Canada means to the world. When people see the maple leaf flying on a high commission, embassy, or consulate, their smiles and cheers reflect Canada's greatness and Canada's promise. But they are also smiles and cheers for you, the people who represent us around the world. You are Canada's eyes and ears. You are our incredible representatives. Your work is absolutely crucial, and I am so grateful. Thank you so much for your work every single day. I am here to support you and to ensure that we are implementing Canada's new foreign policy together as a team, collectively, to ensure Canada's prosperity and greatness in the weeks, months, and years to come. Donc, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.